It's launch week on the Raw Land Startup, and my first guest is Jeff Wilson, the CEO and chief designer of Jupe, a flat pack outdoor bedroom. At the time of our interview, Jupe was about to release the Jupe Portal, their off grid toilet. Fast Company calls Jupe a disruptor because they're out to disrupt the porta potty industry. And believe it or not, Jeff's origin story starts with living in a dumpster. All this next on the Raw Land Startup.
Super excited to be here. Thanks for hosting, Angie.
Could you give us a little bit of background information on your professional training and some of your interesting highlights that led to the start of Jupe?
Yeah, it's kind of a roundabout tale. I had been an environmental science professor and really interested in off-grid stuff, and convinced the university that I was at to actually let me live in a dumpster for a year. So I sold everything I owned for $1 an item. I got a 33 square foot used trash dumpster.
Of course, used. Yes.
Went through the process of first cleaning it, but then converting it into a small off-grid home as sort of a symbol of waste and an educational experiment. That led me into the world of housing. So I had a backyard modular manufactured tiny home startup prior to this. And I just wanted something that was going to be a little bit more portable, less expensive, and sort of fully included the main things that you would need to sort of set up a nature camping site. And that's what I came up with Jupe.
Okay. And so you had clearly you had the design experience and the immersive design experience.
Immersive, yeah, is one way to put it. I was all in. I was all in. I was completely trashed, as they say.
But above. So you had that experience. How were you able to get people on board with something like that?
Yeah, it was, even though I hadn't been a designer, it was a big idea after a big problem, right? Casita was trying to go after the affordable housing problem. And what we were trying to do was use small little triangles, these little slivers of land in urban areas that typically aren't used by big real estate developers, and then stack up within those. So, it's a very large market. It's a very large problem. And I managed to get a few funders on board and a few really good team members. And we went after that problem. But ultimately, Casita didn't make it, like a lot of these startups that go after affordable housing, because it's just so hard from a code perspective, from a zoning perspective, financing, all the NIMBYs. Right? Like there are so many reasons to make it so hard to do affordable housing. So in this iteration of my kind of try at this, we're really starting with this glamping market and trying to develop out some technology and housing product that can eventually solve some problems around like disaster relief and other things. So really excited to be in this market. It's growing like crazy, as you know, and there's so many opportunities to set up on raw land, especially farms, right, across the country. So really excited to be talking with you.
Okay, great. And so for the people who are dealing with the challenges on what to do with their raw land, I think people in a lot of cases have limited exposure to the options. And there are so many things within this glamping sector that really speak to the practical ways that people can get something started on their property. So with the companies and the festivals that you've worked with so far, how have you seen different glamping interpretations of or uses of your Jupes?
Yeah. So just to step back and describe what the Jupe is, right? It's a flat packed outdoor bedroom. So unlike anybody else in the space, the Jupe includes the foundation. It has built-in batteries, solar panels, lighting, the bed, the headboard, the porch, the top, all of it. So it literally sets up and you throw some sheets on there and you have a super comfortable 12-foot tall cavernous like living experience. It, you know, looks like something that dropped out of outer space a lot more than it looks like a traditional tent or yurt. And so, you know, what we say at Jupe is just add land. That's our tag phrase. Jupe does not want to get into the business of buying or leasing land or operating units. All we do is make the actual Jupes and all the software and infrastructure that goes along with them. So, you know, it's a perfect kind of marriage here. If somebody has really got a lot of land and doesn't know what to do with it and doesn't want to go to the trouble of building foundations and even buying furniture and lighting and batteries and all this stuff, Jupe can come in and not only drop our Jupes there and begin to rent them the very same night, but we can even list them on our booking platform. So you're not paying Airbnb or some other service, right, the 17% or the X amount per unit per month. So we take over all that. And I think we're the only company that not only makes the Jupe tents, makes the hardware, but also has a software booking system on top of that. I don't know anybody else that does that, actually.
In what different implementations have people been able to use Jupes?
Yeah, there's two main ones that we look at. One of them is somebody that already has an existing Airbnb, but they've got a really big backyard or a lot of land. And what we can do there is we can say, okay, maybe you can sleep 6 people right now in your Airbnb. And what we'll do, and maybe you're getting 300 a night. What we'll do is we'll come in and we'll drop 5 Jupes on your land. Now you're sleeping 16 people, right? And maybe you can get 500, 600 a night. And that's really with no additional infrastructure, right, required. Those folks would just use the bathroom on the inside, right? And have a really, really comfortable sleeping experience. So that's one way we do it, is we add to an existing structure. The other thing we've done is we've gone to places that don't have anything, right? They've got just a raw piece of land, and we'll drop our Jupes. We're coming out with a toilet very soon. That should be out in the next month. That's really, really cool. We call the Portal. Or folks will build their own bathrooms or have some sort of portable bathroom there to use with the Jupes.
Okay, so tell me more about the Portal. Is it a composting toilet?
Yeah, so right now it's a very high design portable toilet, a porta potty essentially, with a mirrored surface. Like, it's almost like a little piece of art. It's about 3 times the volume of a normal sort of porta potty, and it has all of this light in it. It's really an insane sort of experience. It's the first porta potty you're gonna want to hang out in and take selfies. But it literally is porta potty technology. It has a full-time solar panel, solar system and fan in it, so it doesn't smell, but it can be serviced just like any other porta potty. And the reason we did that is because people don't like cleaning out composting toilets, or the incinerating toilets use a lot of power and aren't really off grid. This way, if it doesn't smell and you're in a really cool environment, you can pay anybody that would normally come by and service a porta potty to come by and service the Portal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed on your booking platform, a lot of your Jupes are available out west, with a few on the East Coast. How are you servicing such a widespread, group of Jupes?
Yeah. Well, they actually don't require a lot of service after the fact, right?
Okay.
So we will bring them and set them up on somebody's land, and then the actual maintenance on them is actually pretty low. Generally, we partner up with somebody locally to clean them and operate them. So again, Jupe makes the software and we make the Jupes, but we don't really get involved in the operating or the land side of things. So if a landowner, a farm owner said, hey, I want to set up a Jupe compound on my property, we would drop the Jupes, put them on our booking platform, and then find somebody locally to clean them. if the landowner didn't. And what's great for the landowner as well, typically what they're having to do when they set up a site is go buy a bunch of stuff, right? Well, with Jupes, we have some financing programs to where you're maybe paying only $500 per Jupe per month. And then you're on a kind of lease to own program, so that you're not out there having to spend all this money on decking and equipment and buying these things. And the Jupes are great because they'll last about 7 years. They're not going to, you know, be one of these things off Alibaba that maybe lasts a year and then you're replacing it. So there are some really interesting options in terms of just adding, you know, Jupe to your land there as well.
Now, at this point, what climate suits them the best?
Yeah, so, you know, we're set up everywhere from Canada all the way down to Joshua Tree in the Southwest. And so, you know, depending on how many seasons you want to run them, that's really the question, right? So a lot of times the glamping kind of operations shut down in the winter anyways. Under Canvas, one of the biggest ones, right, shuts down their locations in the Grand Canyon and across the desert Southwest all winter. And that's how we'd kind of think about Jupe as well. It's not really a winter solution. We do include, you know, or you can add actually electric blankets to them to run off grid, where it's probably good to the mid 40s or so. But once you start getting snow loads, we generally take the Jupes down. So they are more of a, you know, product to be used in the months, at least where there's not snow.
Could you describe the setup process?
Yeah, and I mean, this is actually video, right? So I guess I could actually we could try this little experiment, and I could share the screen. Should we try that?
Let's do it. Let's see.
Okay, we're all about experimentation here. So I will let's see if I can get this to work, because it's a lot easier to kind of show this than to just tell. So let me see if I can share my screen. Just hold on. Your millions of listeners here will just have to be patient.
Billions.
Billions. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for undercutting you. Oh, I think you've got to enable screen sharing. But while you're doing that, you know, one of the things that's really cool about Jupe is that we can get 12 of these on a single truck. So when you might typically be, oh, there we go. So when you might typically be thinking about, oh, if I'm hauling these things across the country, I'm going to need a bunch of trucks to do this. So can you see that there?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah. So that right there is actually 8 entire Jupes.
Wow.
So the bed, the mattress, the batteries, the headboard, the top, all of it can fit just like that. And we can actually stack 15 of these on one truck. So that is, call it a Tuesday, and that's Wednesday afternoon.
Wow.
So you can see that, you know, these things set up and are ready to go. There was no foundation poured there. There were no utilities. There was no deck built. They literally showed up and were just dropped down and set up. So we set all these up in about a day, and you can see how high design the interiors are, right? They really don't look like anything else in the world. You can't like unsee a Jupe, right? Super clean interiors. There's all kinds of storage underneath that floor. We can actually also drop things within the floor. Like an air conditioner will drop in there if you are on grid. You can drop in solar equipment, all kinds of things like that. And so the idea is that they come in flat packed and then can just set up. Now that is an illustration. They don't pop up that easy. It does take our crew a couple of hours to set it up. But what's great is then you can then stack them and, you know, put them in the barn or cover them up for the winter. So ultimately, right, we'll have the ability to pick these things up and move them between various different sites like this. and, set up a really comfortable experience. Yeah.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And one thing that's also interesting to me is your porta potty solution, because
Yeah.
to your point, who likes a porta potty? And in properties that are, that are off grid, when you hold events, or you may start having glamping stays, etc., typically porta potties are your only solutions, and that it kind of ruins the feel of the experience.
Right.
So do you have any renderings of
I
your?
can show you a photo, not a render.
Okay.
We haven't released this yet, so,
Okay.
but that is what it looks like. That's actually a photograph.
Oh, wow.
So they're pretty insane, right?
That is, it's like, it is a portal to another
It does
dimension.
look like a portal to another dimension.
Yeah,
So she's
yeah.
inside it. There's
Okay,
actually a curtain that comes down there.
fantastic.
You can either have the curtain up if you want to sort of view out over your domain from your
Mhm.
throne, or you can close that. It has solar panels. It's actually quite large. This is what the interior looks like. So super
Wow.
clean, interesting interior. That's a selfie of me that I've taken inside
Mhm.
of the portal. So these are going to be
Okay,
really cool.
that is,
And
yeah.
we should be announcing them soon in the press and setting up our website for pre-orders.
Okay, that's fantastic. So you are getting a sneak preview here first.
That's like one of the only previews. Yeah, only
That's awesome.
for, kind of the Oprah of glamping will we
Yeah.
actually
Oh my
like share
gosh.
these things.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's okay. That's a good one. That's a good one. And I think also where this fits in nicely is that I think people who are into glamping are more aesthetically
That's
driven.
right. Yeah.
And so it does have more of an appeal, obviously, than a porta potty, etc. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
fantastic.
and I mean that's our whole vibe at Jupe, right? If you look at this thing behind me, this is not a render. It's actually a photo from Los Angeles when we kind of had our blinged out LA version.
Hmm.
Like everything we do starts with really high-end design, right?
Yes.
Like our designers have designed yachts, the Cybertruck ATV,
Mm.
chocolate bars, chairs, all kinds of really cool things, consumer
Hmm.
products. And so we're trying to do things a little bit different to
Hmm.
where you really recognize that as a Jupe. Nobody's ever going to, mistake that for a tent or a yurt, and nobody's ever going to mistake a portal
Hmm.
for a regular old porta potty. And so as we continue to build out our shower is going to be really cool as well. Our off-grid shower, it kind of looks like a monolith.
Hmm.
Um, and as we develop out saunas, community areas, all those things, we're going to have this really cool design aesthetic. And we think that's really important for when you're experiencing deep nature. You want to experience it in the right way, and a level of comfort and a level of design.
Okay. So in terms of your inspiration for this 2001 Space Odyssey.
That's a big one. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Some people say that the Jupes actually look like something out of Star Wars as well. These
Mhm.
things called sand crawlers,
Okay.
which was in
Right.
one of the early Star Wars films, but also things like The Matrix.
Mhm.
Were really inspired by sci-fi and
Mhm.
by products
Clearly.
and by deep space. So,
Mhm.
really what we are trying to combine here is a feeling of deep nature, deep technology and deep cosmos is sort of how we bring together the Jupe brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have the glamping application, which is fantastic for, especially for the people who are going to be following us. Uh, but then there is also a larger potential use for Jupes. Could you describe some other ways that they're being used?
Yeah, well, I mean, what we're doing is building out a technology platform, right, that will allow for multiple use cases. So, if you can just allow me for a moment to go into, some of the kind of theory behind Jupe, really it's based on this sort of what's called a skateboard electric vehicle chassis.
Wow.
So, a chassis is, for those folks that are not sort of in the auto industry, it's sort of the body that cars and trucks and various things are built on. And a lot of times, what's really cool about these chassis is you can put different things on top. So, a Lexus 400 may have the exact same underlying chassis as like a Camry, right?
Hmm.
But there's just different things built on top. So what I thought was, okay, why don't we build a universal chassis for housing to where we can put a soft tent on? Or we
Hmm.
can also do things like put a greenhouse on it, or a COVID shelter, or a
Hmm.
bathroom, or a hard top, or even a ball pit, right? So we have all these various things that can go on top of them that
Hmm.
allow us to do a variety of things. So, that may even include eventually using two of them side by side like this and having an ensuite bathroom. So, what we intend to do long term with this is, this is a render with about 300,000 jupes on a singular boat. Well, this
Wow.
may not be going to, I don't know, Beyonce's next concert in the Caribbean. It could be going to Puerto Rico, right? Or Haiti after a natural disaster. We
Hmm.
could pack those jupes back up and send them over to Florida, right? For like this hurricane that just came through. So we have a much larger humanitarian mission through
Hmm.
our jupe.org that is going to be going after some of these bigger problems that humanity faces. And really, the folks that are working on this glamping side and supporting Jupe on that side are really going to drive this larger mission for the 1.6 billion people on the planet that don't have adequate housing.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So for on the practical side of things,
Yeah.
what would someone have to invest in order to have a semi turnkey jupe glamping operation?
Yeah, so, let's start with just the jupes, the actual rooms.
Hmm.
Again, I'll say that you're not just getting the tent, right? You're
Sure.
getting an $800 mattress, lighting, all the furniture, the foundation, the porch, the top, all of that. So that gets delivered and set up on your land. And there's a couple of different ways we can do it. One is for about $500 a night, or
Hmm.
sorry, $500 a month. So
Hmm.
typically that'll be a couple of nights you would have to rent the jupe to cover that every month.
Hmm.
And then there's a revenue share on top of that. So that revenue share varies, right? But you got to think about it as the actual landowner. You've got no upfront costs there in
Hmm.
terms of getting started, right?
Hmm.
You could have 20 jupes dropped on your land, and then you're just needing to rent those 1 or 2 nights out of the month, and then you own the jupes at the end of it, right?
Hmm.
So that's one way to do it. And then, the landowner would need to have some kind of bathrooms either built or use some existing ones, or rent some sort of bathroom facility and get that set up. So startup costs in terms of posting up an entire like glamping hotel
Hmm.
are pretty cheap, right?
Okay.
No matter what, you're going to have some place for folks to sleep, and you're going to have probably have some place for folks to go to the bathroom. And Jupe's going to yield you sort of the highest, I think, nightly rates on and with the least hassle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so in terms of that option,
Yeah.
the rent to own option,
Yeah.
what is the duration of that contract?
Yeah. So it's 5 years.
Hmm.
So it's renting it 1 or 2 nights a month to
Hmm.
cover your costs for 5 years, and then you outright own the Jupe. Um, And then the other benefit is that we have our own online booking platform and booking site, where the site owner can manage these things, the landowner, and folks can also book. So you're not paying Airbnb that 17%. The other thing that we're able to do is we run ads in the local market. So let's say that you're set up, I don't know, where or is a recent client that comes to mind for you?
Okay, so some of our most recent clients are coming from Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, so let's say you've got a farm in Richmond, and you get your Jupe site set up. What we'll start doing is running ads locally. Anybody that searches in that sort of area of the country for glamping or outdoor group experience or offsite, those sort of things, then that Jupe Virginia compound will come up to the top of the search, and we'll start pushing folks towards your site. And there aren't, as far as I know, any of the other companies that actually provide that service as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you hear so much, obviously, about supply chain issues, et cetera. What is your lead time for shipping a Jupe?
Yeah, we are really, really good at making these. We're making a couple a day right now. So short answer to your question, we could ship as early as next week. We have dialed in a lot of our supply chain challenges by taking control. These things are not made over in China. They are made in Texas and designed in California. And we assemble them on our factory floor there in Texas. So we're able to ship pretty quickly.
Because there's a startup component to the podcast as well. It's an important piece of information that you came through Y Combinator.
Yeah.
And you were able to impart, get funding through that. What was that experience like for you?
Oh, wow. I mean, Y Combinator is like being in 10 weeks of the NBA finals. Like, I think we were probably working 16-hour days for about 10 weeks, including weekends. It was the most intense sort of training boot camp experience of my life. It's very competitive to get in. About 20,000 companies apply. And I think in the last batch, they admitted 200. So once you do get in, they run you through just an incredible education, but also just really help you improve your startup. And so Y Combinator, invests in companies that can become Airbnbs or Coinbases or Instacarts. And so it was really a lot of validation that they believed in Jupe's, team and idea and bigger mission to solve some big housing and infrastructure problems for the world. But an absolute fantastic experience. I would encourage anyone with a startup idea to apply and apply again and again. I think one of the people in our batch, we got in on our second try. One of the people in our batch, I think, had applied 8 times before they got in.
Wow. Well, congratulations again. And yes, other than glamping, there are so many possibilities with this to solve concrete problems that we're seeing in most urban areas. Housing shortages, et cetera, temporary housing needs, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's a bigger purpose for this. But also for the people on a practical level who want to start a glamping business. This is definitely a solid option. And for people like us who we're on the cusp of getting running water on our property for the first time in history, better porta potty solutions, definitely that's what absolutely what the marketplace needs. So I'm really looking forward to
Yeah, I mean, we're not only going to
the
do
portal.
porta potties, but on our roadmap, we're using that same chassis to build a giant battery that's solar powered. So I'm talking a battery that's 13 feet long by 8 feet wide by about 18 inches thick. So this will
Wow.
allow you to really power up an entire site and run air conditioning, run whatever you need. We have Starlink that is now
Yes.
connected to our Jupes. So
Hmm.
if you don't even have a cell, forget Wi-Fi, if you don't even have a cell signal in some valley where your farm is, you can still get internet now with Starlink. So we can add that. We've got Starlink at some of our sites where there is no cell signal on any of the carriers, but we're still able to get internet. And then we're also working on, yeah, these giant water tanks, 500-gallon water tanks, both
Wow.
freshwater and blackwater tanks. So what we hope to provide is the ability to flat pack and pop up an entire village off of
That's
a truck
amazing.
in just a day. So that's our longer term vision for what we're trying to do. And yeah, we've got a long way to go right now. We've got a fancy electric tent, you could say. But yeah, that's kind of the mission that we're on for sure.
And obviously your team is, you have a team that's not exactly made of slouches. They come from various disciplines. Could you highlight some of their origins, some of the companies they've worked with?
I can talk about that a bit. You know, I had a background as an environmental scientist and then having an ADU startup. You know, my co-founder Antonio at one point built out more Sprinter van conversions than anyone in the world. He also built a factory that made a Cadillac Escalade every 57 seconds. So,
Wow.
you know, with our goal of making millions of these, I would say that a Jupe is still fairly less complicated than an Escalade. The first engineer we had built one of Elon's first rockets in Texas. So he was a rocket structures engineer. The main designer behind the Jupe designed the Cybertruck ATV and the Cybertruck for Tesla. And then, yeah, like I said, we have folks that have worked on yachts. Our head of R&D actually developed this scooter, this spin scooter. And then Airbnb had a backyard ADU product that they were working on in secret for many years, our main engineers from there. And then the person that built out WeWork's global app actually works for us. So we have a massive software team as well that's building out the whole software side of this. I mean, one of the things that's going to be really cool that I'm looking forward to that we just debuted at the glamping show was all the technology in the Jupe. So right now, in our latest version, you can turn the lights on and off and control the speakers on an app in the Jupe. You can also control that from anywhere in the world as an operator securely. Wow. And eventually we'll be able to know when Jupes are occupied or not, when they've been cleaned or when they haven't, and like flip on the air conditioning or the heat remotely so that you're not using it when it's not in the unit. So I call this the Teslafication of physical space. If you've ever seen these Teslas, how you can turn the AC and heat on and off, you can actually summon them. That's what we're trying to do with physical space with Jupe. So we've got a team of, like you said, I may be the one guy that's sort of trashed and the dumpster guy, but the rest of the team's pretty sharp.
That is fantastic. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for your time, your information, and inspiration. I'm really focused on innovation in this space and the possibilities that people have for their raw land. So this has definitely been helpful.
Awesome.
And so, and then also, could you tell us where we can find you, find Jupe, etc.
Absolutely. Yeah, so you can go to jupe.com and you can click on the Got Land button there and contact us to get in touch to talk about if you've got a farm. You can contact me directly on Twitter and Instagram at Prof Dumpster, PROF Dumpster. You can also see Jupe on Instagram and Twitter at Jupe Inc. So yeah, really excited to engage with some of the folks that have land. That is our ultimate goal, is to not only set up really quickly and help folks to activate and monetize their land, but when we leave, to leave with no trace. There are no foundations with Jupes, or, you know, you're not digging a bunch of holes in the ground. We actually leave the land at least as good as when we arrived. So really excited about working with folks in your sphere of interest, and really appreciate you having us on the Oprah of Glamping.
I'm gonna so run with that. So.
And congratulations to Jupe, who just marked the production of their 200th Jupe. Congrats, guys. The Raw Land Startup is available on your favorite podcast apps. So listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and soon on Spotify.